has been fulfilled, and many that we are still waiting on. But the one I have chosen this morning to speak of is the promise of Abraham's son. The promise of Abraham's son. The first promise. Who is Abraham, you might ask? A man who was called to do unthinkable things. Leave your country. Leave your people. And go here. A man who God made the first covenant with. And today, each one of us are living proof of that covenant. We see God's promises with Abraham in his word. We see it throughout Genesis. There's Genesis 12:1-7, Genesis 13:14-8 to 18, Genesis 15:4-6, Genesis 17:1-8, Genesis 21:5. God makes Abraham several promises and kept reminding him of his promises. Turn with me specifically to Genesis 12:2-3. Everyone there, say aye. The ayes have it. Genesis 12 says, 2-3. I will make you a great nation. Actually, let's go from 1, because I mentioned that. The Lord had said to Abraham, leave your country, your people, your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I curse. And all people on earth will be blessed through you. That was a promise that God gave Abraham. He would make his numbers increase. He would make him many nations. Look at how God promises was released and the process that it took with Abraham. In Genesis 12:4, it says, so Abraham left, and as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abraham was 75 years old when he set out for Haran. That's important. In Genesis 12:4, Abraham was 75 years old when he set out. When he was told he would be made into a great nation. I'm just going to go through, because for us to stop and to go to each verse, it would take too much time. So I would say the verses. You could write them down, and you could go back to look at the verses and to confirm the verses and for the Lord to speak through you. But I think it's important that I mention the verses and that you take your time. Genesis 15:5 goes on to say, God physically showed him the numbers of descendants that he would have. He took him outside and said, look up at the sky and count the stars. If indeed you can count them, so shall your offsprings be. He went again in Genesis 15:6 and said, it says that Abraham believed in the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. 75 years old. He told him at the beginning. He physically showed it to him because of Abraham's belief. God credited that to him. Genesis 17:5, God changed his name from Abram to Abraham, which means father of multitudes. Do you see the process that took place? Let's go on. Although we can track the process and see the promises for Abraham and his wife unfolding, the reality is that according to Genesis 21:5, this did not take place until 25 years later. But in between this process, they were challenged. Sarah, his wife, remained barren. And this was a time where they were feeling the weight, the heaviness of the actual weight. Both well advanced in age, there were mental battles as they held on to God's promises. Where is the son to carry on their line? The fulfillment of the promise. It became so concerning that they decided to take things into their own hands, causing havoc in their household. Sarah convinced Abraham to start a family with their Egyptian slave, Hagar. This resulted in a child that God never spoke to them about. That's in Genesis 16:1-15. Please look at it for yourself. But one thing is, although this occurred, this was no surprise to God. And God stood by his promise. He brought forth their promised son, Isaac, by Abraham's wife, Sarah. That's Genesis 21:1-7. Do you know how old Abraham was? Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. What's important to see is a promise is a journey. One that you have to take. And if you know anything about journeys, there is planning, there is timing, there is waiting, there is unforeseen circumstances. There's stops and delays. The thing is, when there is a promise and it is released, believed, accepted, there comes challenges before the birthing of that promise. In the process, there is building of faith, there is building of trust, commitment, endurance, and truth. But as God didn't leave Abraham on his journey, know that God was always with Abraham, navigating the promise, reminding him, encouraging him, and directing him. And so he is doing with you and your promises. Look at how I saw it went for Abraham. God requested change. God requested Abraham to make a change. Leave your home. That place is a place of destruction. Then he said, God told him about the promise. He showed him the promise, the plan. In obedience, he was ready to hear that plan. God showed him what his promise would look like. The stars in the sky. God spoke of his righteousness because of his belief. He acknowledges it and makes it known when we believe and when we trust him.